Will you please state your name and your date of birth?
Date of birth? You're just gonna out me on camera in public for the whole world. All right, I am Terrell Ferguson, as you've known since we were 10, 11 years old, or since I was 10, 11 years old. My date of birth is August the 14th, 1969.
And do you live in Venice, or what years have or did you live in?
So here's the ironic part about my journey with Venice. I have never, in my natural born life, lived in Venice. However, I have lived in Venice. What I mean by that is I'm an LA kid, South Central LA, and then once I had kids, the Valley. But I've been in Venice every weekend, most holidays, and some random weekdays for the entirety of my life, probably since roughly summer of 1979. So my earliest memories of Venice is my dad shooting hoops. And I wasn't big enough or girthy enough or tall enough to shoot hoops at 9, about to be 10 years old. Because, you know, summertime gets out. My dad's an every other weekend dad. He would go play basketball, and he would drop me off at the original Venice skate circle, which was where the playground is now, but it was adjacent to the basketball courts. So my dad, who was every other weekend and didn't want to stop his weekend for his little crumb snatcher, said, Venice, skating. I can play basketball. I can keep one eye on my son while still yelling at people that it was a foul or it wasn't a foul. And so he would take me over to the skate circle, and sometimes he'd bring the wrong skates. I had me in the little Street Kings with the metal wheels, white skates, had people laughing at me, you know, because we weren't as progressive as we are now. So a little boy in white skates from South Central was kind of odd. But Another One Bites the Dust was playing at the time. And it was like, so my first image was going to the skate, what was then the skate circle, and hearing Another One Bites the Dust, and Funky Town, and old Gap Band songs from the 70s. So my image of Venice, my very first initial image of Venice, is basketball players yelling and arguing, and music and people rolling around with smiles on their faces. When I started skating, I was 9, with feet that were too big and clothes that were too small. And so I watched this group of people, and I'm like, man, they look like they're having fun. The music was loud. Bob was his name. I don't even know his last name. He had thick thighs and an afro. And he was real cool. He wore sunglasses, those kind that you wear when you're snowboarding or skiing. He would bring a white van out, and he put house speakers in it. He had literal speakers from the living room that everybody from the 70s, 80s remembers, those big old speakers. And he would charge his battery, his car battery, to the speakers, and it was like your auntie's living room on a holiday. And except for it was every weekend. My big skate mentor, or OG as we call him, is Mad. Mad would build his own music box systems. And there'd be like car speakers built into this box, and he would put skateboard wheels on the bottom so he could roll it out, thought all the things through. So Bob would bring the van early. Mad said, okay, let me take what he's doing, make it smaller, but just as loud. He advanced it. So now there's more people coming. Music attracts people. Everybody. We might not like the same type of music, or I might listen to this kind, you listen to that, but music is going to always attract people. So now you have great skaters and dancers, beginning skaters and dancers, all types of men, women, old, young, gay, straight. So we didn't have to be so specific with our diversity because it was built in. It was natural, it was organic, and it wasn't even like we tried. Like if you're nice to me, I'm gonna be nice to you, period. Like I don't even need to know your backstory or anything else. It's a very simple thing of whoever treats me well, I'm gonna treat well. And I think me is Venice at that point. Like whoever treats him well, he's gonna treat well. Whoever treats her well. And it doesn't matter who you are or what you represent because we're here having a good time. On the basketball courts, they're there. They don't care if you're tall, short, fat, skinny, white, black. Venice is naturally inclusive. So we didn't have to have inclusionary rules because it's who we are as a community. For better or for worse, even though I wasn't a resident of Venice, I was raised and bred by Venice Beach. The thing that separates Venice from everybody else and keeps Venice together is that all these little micro communities fully function on their own, and by the same token, mix and blend together like they're second cousins from 40 years ago.
Is there a thing about Venice that you specifically think people don't know but they should?
That it was black and brown originally. It was built by black and brown because in LA, Central Ave used to be one of the few places you could buy property if you were black, brown, or Asian, and Jewish also. But Central Ave was one of the few places. That's why South Central was special. Now they changed it to South LA. That's different. Venice was a similar thing in the beach community, whereas you couldn't go. I think it was Pico on the north side. You couldn't really go past Pico, and I don't know where it was on the south side, but I know don't go into Santa Monica past Pico. But have a good time in Venice. I think it was Dockweiler. I think Dockweiler was the southernmost border. But like basically all of those beaches north of Pico and south of Dockweiler, don't go there. But hey, have a good time with you and the family at Venice because your people built it. And so we let some of you stay here and you've built generations here. And I think that people don't know that it was built by black and brown, not necessarily for black and brown, because Abbot Kinney originally thought of Venice as like a carnival town. Like, what's the place in New York with the Coney Island? Like, I think in his head, I mean, I wasn't there because obviously it was 100 years ago and I might be old, but I'm not that damn old. But I think in his head, reading what I've read on Abbot Kinney, who was, I guess, the founder of Venice, for lack of a better term. I know he's a street now, but he was the founder of Venice. I think he saw it as a Coney Island for the rich and the playful. And then it didn't quite go the way he thought, but still popular, just in a different way that he thought. And I guess to his credit, he kind of went with it. I don't see that that was his vision, but he had a happy accident, and instead of ruining it and starting over, he just went with it. And that's shaping things with black and brown people building it and allowing Jewish people and Asian people and Hispanic people and black people to come and have a good time together. Maybe this was the only time they could not work. Maybe they had one day a week to not work. And I want to spend it at the beach. Oh, because it's 114 degrees in LA. Let's come to Venice. Let's have a good time. Let's get in the water. Let's surf. Let's kick the water around. Let's play with the dog. Let's take the kids out and throw them in the sand and build sand castles and bury them in the sand. You could do all of that at Venice. And it was one of the only places in LA that you could.